Welcome, walk-off sports media fans, to I guess it would be our Sunday night impromptu recap. We had a phenomenal weekend of sports. Probably one of the best sports weekends we've seen in history. I mean, we had the World Series, great college football, tons of upsets. We had three top 10 upsets. And then the NFL today, three top 10 upsets as well. We had a lot to dive into. So we're going to kick it off right off with probably the best World Series of our lifetimes, and then the best Game Seven potentially in history. I mean, that was a phenomenal series between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, all the big stars stepping up for the Dodgers, but you got to commend the Blue Jays. I mean, they gave the Dodgers a phenomenal series. Kyle, you want to start us off with any thoughts?
First of all, I just think what we saw from Yamamoto we might not ever see it again. In a 7-game series, he pitched in game 2, game 6, game 7. Total
Back to
of
back days, might I add.
seven,
Back to back
seven.
days.
That's crazy. 17 and 2/3 innings, only 2 runs given up in the entire series. He was like nails, man. He
The
was
entire
nails.
series, man.
But that game 7, I mean, starting off with that Bo Bichette home run, that was one of the coldest moments I think
Mhm.
I've seen. And then the Dodgers able to claw their way back. Blue Jays held the lead in that game for most of it. Muncy hit that home run off Savage in the 8th. And then in the 9th inning, man, all they had to do was get 3 more outs. Get the first one pretty easily on a little fly ball. And then Miguel Rojas coming up with 1 out. You would think that'd be the easy out, right? The next guy up, Shohei
100%.
Ohtani. Shohei is the one that you're worried about. Nah, Miggy Rowe, man. That was crazy. What did you think live off the bat?
Well, I mean, I thought it kind of I the way he swung, it looked like he kind of golfed at it a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going, if I'm being completely honest, but it was just one of those magic postseason moments where came up with a big play. And I don't know if you saw what Dave Roberts said in his interview yesterday, that Miguel Rojas, he wasn't even in the lineup Friday, and his wife's talking about, oh, you're going to hit a home run in the World Series. You're going to hit a home run in the World Series. Game seven, bottom of, well, it was top of the ninth,
Top of the ninth,
but
yeah. Down
but
one.
it's
Down one.
down one, exactly. This is something we all grew up in the backyards as kids doing, and comes up with a massive clutch home run. I mean, it was just absolute scenes, and I feel for those Toronto Blue Jays fans because you're 2 outs away from a World Series championship. First one in what, 20, 30 years? It was
No,
about
over
30,
30 years. It was
over 30 years,
33,
yeah.
right before the
33 years, yeah.
lockout, yeah. But like
Crazy.
it didn't end there. It did not end there. Going to the
Mhm.
bottom of the 9th inning, Blue Jays load the bases up with 1 out. You're thinking this is over, right? Like it's
Yep,
over. I believe it was Dalton Varsho hit a hard ground ball right at Miggy Rojas, of course, just the
of
hero in
course.
this series. He stumbled a little bit, and at this point, I'm in my hotel room. I had to leave the wedding I was at a little early because I'm like, it's game 7.
Gotta
At
sing
the time
in.
when I left, at the time that I left, it was a 2-run game. So I'm back in my hotel room. I'm thinking this is over. I'm jumping up. I think they're about to score. We're done. Nah, Miguel Rojas, as he stumbles, makes a perfect throw to the plate. And Will Smith did drag his cleat up a little bit, but by the grace of God, he was able to get it down right back on time.
I do have to add, I don't know if you saw Kiner Falefa's secondary lead on that.
Yeah, no, there was
I mean, what
nothing.
there was nothing. I mean, what are you like? I
They're
understand
not
it's a
gonna
big
pick
moment
you
in the
off.
game.
They're not
They're
gonna
not.
pick you
They're
off,
not
right?
gonna. What are the odds that they pick off to first base?
Or
Like
third base, third base.
third base? Yeah. What am I saying? To third base. What are the odds that they pick off to third base in that scenario? Like, I'd say it's next to nothing. So I'm getting
Exactly.
a massive secondary lead. Like, he was 2 feet off the bag. Like, what's
Exactly.
going on?
I know they always tell you, take a big secondary because even like a pitch in the dirt right there, you got to be able to score. You are the
Hmm.
winning run in the Game 7 of the World Series. You have to score. You have to be ready. But again, I'm gonna have to say this a couple more times. It did not end there. I believe it was Ernie Clement. Ernie
Yep.
Clement has the most hits in a single postseason history. I believe it was 30 or 31.
Hmm.
So I don't know what the Dodgers were doing. The outfield honestly looked like they were playing in a little bit with 2 outs, which at that point you're just trying to prevent anything from dropping. It doesn't matter if it's behind you, nothing can drop because the winning run is at third base. So it was Kike Hernandez and Andy Pajes are converging deep. I didn't think this ball really had that much.
Uh-uh.
Kept going, kept going. They're both going for it. They run into each other. I'm thinking the ball's about to drop, and Toronto just won the World Series. But somehow Andy Pajes was able to hold on to that.
That's a
And
great catch too.
yeah, no, he finished through the contact and unbelievable. The 10th inning was a little quiet. We didn't really have anything going on there until the 11th inning where Will Smith just hit an absolute bomb, man. An absolute bomb. I
Tank.
I cannot remember who was pitching at that point in the game. Was it Shane Bieber? It was Shane Bieber.
Yeah, Shane Bieber,
Yeah.
I believe.
Unloaded into left field. Ultimately ended up being the winning run. The Blue Jays did get runners on the corners though, first and third with one out, and just tie run at third. The last thing you can do in that situation if you're Alejandro Kirk is hit a ground ball. You can't hit a ground ball, especially with the infield drawn back. They're looking for the double play. Just broken bat, hit it to Mookie Betts, stepped on the back, threw it over. And the Dodgers, for the first time in 25 years, we have a repeat champion. The Dodgers take their third in this little run, their golden era, I would say. What a crazy
Well,
run.
it's expected though.
Yeah, when you have that kind of a squad, you're expected to go out there and win. And it doesn't matter what they're doing with the salary. It doesn't. They are the best team in baseball. They're going to continue to be the best team in baseball. It sounds like they're going to go out there, go give a look at Kyle Tucker. Kyle Schwarber, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in a Dodgers uniform. And with the starting pitching market that is available on free agency as well as the trade market, I wouldn't be surprised if they go make a splash with some of those prospects they have. If you have the capital, go do it. I'm not a believer that any other team can do this because I truly don't think so. I don't think another team can afford to give out these deferred payments and go absolutely break the bank. But until there is something put up to stop the Dodgers from doing this, we're going to continue to see it, and they're going to continue to be the team to beat in MLB.
So I do have a question for you off of that. Do you think that they could go in and get a guy maybe like Tariq Skubal or Paul Skeens with those prospects, or are those
That's
guys
exactly where I was going
just
with that.
yeah?
So the return, I believe, for Tarek Skubal this offseason, if the Tigers do look to trade him in a contract year, isn't going to be the kind of return that maybe we saw for Garrett Crochet, where they had to give up Colston Montgomery as well as a couple other top prospects. It's 1 year. And I think if the Tigers were smart, they would just look to go and make a one-for-one swap because the Tigers are still now in win-now mode. They have a squad on offense. They're probably going to look to add a little bit. And, I would shop them around, see if you can get Emmett Sheehan, one of the younger pitchers, Bobby Miller, not in a one-for-one. If we're talking one-for-one, a destination I can see for him is definitely Seattle. Maybe trade Tarek Skubal one-for-one for Logan Gilbert or any of those guys, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, whoever they're willing to give up. Yeah, you're not getting the better player, but you're getting years of control, and that's exactly what the Tigers need right now.
Especially being a smaller market team. I mean, I guess maybe not a smaller market team, but one that we would consider a smaller market in the MLB at least. So that brings me to my next question, Kyle. Do you think that I mean, obviously these deferred wages are going to make it really hard for any other team to compete, but do you think that there's any other team in the MLB that can truly challenge the Dodgers, or is it going to be a three-peat come next season?
Obviously, I do think there are a couple of teams. The Yankees are always going to come back and be good. I think, the Phillies, if they are able to retain Kyle Schwarber and maybe even Ranger Suarez, they're going to be a threat. If the Astros can stay healthy, I can see that happening. Maybe the Padres out in the NL West. But I don't know. This Dodgers team is so good. I mean, it's all-stars everywhere you look, almost every single position. That lineup, even when it seems like it's not deep, you're having guys step up. But it's not even the lineup that's really doing it for me. It's the whole pitching staff. It's the
Well,
entire
really, the
pitching staff.
rotate it's the starting rotation, though. For
Yeah,
being completely honest,
the
I mean,
bullpen when healthy. I mean, Tanner Scott,
yeah,
even though he had a bad year, is still a great pitcher. Blake
yep.
Trinan is a great pitcher. Obviously they missed Vesia a little bit. He hasn't been as good this season, but they're always going to make moves. Like Devin Williams. I have a list of free agents for this upcoming offseason. Devin Williams, I would not be surprised if he goes and pitches for the Dodgers next year. It seems like they're always getting that top closer from that season.
Yeah,
You know, maybe they need to sure up a little bit on the infield, maybe a platoon for Tommy Edman. Bo Bichette's a free agent. Gleyber Torres is
yeah,
a free agent. You know, they could go after big guys like Kyle Tucker, not necessarily Pete Alonso because you do already have Freddie,
and
but even
Max
the
Muncy.
pitching.
Yeah,
Yeah, even the pitching, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease. I can see them being a player for any single one of those guys. And the Dodgers, until this gets shored up, without a doubt, are just going to keep running away with everything. It is baseball, though. Like, Toronto was not on paper the better team, but they pushed them to 7. They pushed them to extra
probably
innings
should
in
have
Game 7.
won.
They probably should have if so many things could have happened. There's so many hypotheticals, but in the end, the Dodgers are the champions. I don't think this is good for baseball though, because I do think we are headed for a strike after the 2026 season when
100%.
when the collective bargaining agreement ends. I do think this is going to happen. I think the owners don't want this happening. The players don't want a salary cap because then that caps them out. You won't see Juan Soto getting over 700 million. Shohei wouldn't have gotten 700 million. It kind of caps the bidding a little bit, kind of like the NBA. We see the top tier players are obviously going to get their money, but down low, it kind of stops the bidding, evens out the playing field just a little bit. But the players are not going to agree to that whatsoever. The owners are going to push for it. The agents aren't going to want it. And I don't think we're going to get an agreement before that 2027 opening day.
100%. I mean, it's definitely going to be a situation where there will be, I almost guarantee there will be a lockout because regardless of if it's bad for baseball, the owners know that just the spending of these top teams, you've got teams that like the Athletics and the Guardians and teams that just don't want to spend any money. They're just not able to compete. So
And
organizations like that, they're
how are
obviously
we
going to
even able
want
to
some.
keep up? I mean,
Exactly.
I can remember just an off season. It was 2018, so about 6 years ago. No, a little more than that, like 9 years ago, when Manny Machado and Bryce Harper, they broke the record for the biggest contract ever. Both of them got 300. I believe Harper got a little more,
Yeah.
313. Machado was
Now,
300 million.
now that's
Now
just
that's like,
pennies
yeah,
on the
that's
dollar.
anybody's gonna get that, right? Some of
Yep.
these pitchers are getting $300 million. And it's going to continue to go up because these teams are in bidding wars. And until there is a cap, we're going to have we already have a couple guys averaging because of the deferred payments. Shohei's not getting the full 70 million, but like Juan Soto is.
Yeah.
Juan Soto is. And it's going to end up getting to the point where, you know, teams' budgets on the season, they're already climbing up to over 300 million. And anything above 200 million just a couple years ago was just outrageous. If you were
hmm
doing that, you were ruining baseball. But it's definitely interesting. Free agency this season might get affected by the potential lockdown. Owners may not want to spend as much money on some of these players like, Kyle Tucker. Or we could see him taking a shorter deal like we've seen from some of these top players in free agency recently.
100%. Well, that moves me to my last baseball question that I really have. Can we consider Shohei Ohtani the greatest baseball player of all time now? I mean, considering the performance he put up in this playoffs, the season that he had, the accolades that he's already got. I mean, I'm not saying over his career because obviously the longevity is not there yet, but like for his peak, I mean, are we going to ever see a baseball player at their peak better than Shohei Ohtani has been for this Dodgers team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but you never know with Japan. They're like cyborgs. They're just pushing them out like Yamamoto and they have Maritaki Murakama coming to the MLB
Well,
this
even
coming
Roki
season.
Sasaki this year
Roki, yeah.
was
He was
extremely
really good
talented.
outside of the injury.
Yeah,
But what we're seeing from Shohei has never been done before. Everybody can say, oh, well, Babe Ruth did it. Babe Ruth did it for 2 years. We've seen 5 or 6 full seasons from Shohei doing this. He's given us a 50-50 season. We've never seen that before. He hit 3 home runs, pitched 7 innings, struck out 10 in an NLCS game in one game.
yeah,
We've never seen that. You could argue Barry Bonds. He's probably not as good of a hitter as Barry Bonds was, Barry Bonds was
That's
a
yeah,
unbelievable.
but Barry Bonds was also juicing too. So
Yeah, and
I know you
you
still
know,
have to hit the
that's
baseball. I mean,
controversial. It's
yeah,
controversial. You still have to hit it, but pitching, again, he's not one of the greatest, but to do both of them at the same time automatically just out tops you from everywhere else. If you're let's put it on like a rating scale. If you were rated 9 as a hitter, I would Shohei's a 10. We'll rate Shohei as a 10, and as a pitcher he's a 7. Add those up, that's 17. That's
yeah.
seven.
I mean,
That breaks the scale.
hundred
All he had
percent
to do just to be the best player in baseball, all he has to do is be average at both. And he's freaking
above average at
elite at
both.
both. So,
Yeah,
absolutely, we could say Shohei Ohtani is the GOAT of baseball. And I made this argument with a couple people already. He might be the GOAT in all of sports. You know,
I agree.
Brady has the
I
rings. Brady has the rings, but just dominance at his respected sport. I think it's like Dion, for example. I know Dion played both sides and both
just not at the same
two
level.
sports. Yeah, not the same level. Dion's a Hall of Fame defender, and he was relatively average at offense, right? Wouldn't say he was great. Travis Hunter, the same thing, even though it's his rookie season. Um, Good at defense, good at offense, not necessarily elite at either one. Bo Jackson played two sports.
I
He was
think
great
Bo's
at
the only
both of
one you
them.
can compare. Like if we're talking just pure
Athlete,
athleticism,
yeah. Hmm.
Bo, and then people are gonna would love to throw Michael Jordan in that conversation or a guy like LeBron just off of their athletic abilities. But I mean, we're seeing
Even
some,
going into soccer,
yeah,
even going into
yeah,
soccer, is the
Ronaldo, Messi,
in
Pele. I
soccer, I
mean,
don't
still
believe,
though,
yeah. Like
it's I
Shohei
mean,
is it's like these if Ronaldo was the goalie, defender, and striker all
yeah,
at the
I mean,
exact same
it's
time, and
ridiculous.
we don't see it. And so, I don't know. I would say Shohei Ohtani is the greatest athlete we have ever seen and that we will ever see. But
I'm starting to believe it,
obviously that
dude.
could
Like,
change.
well, I will say this on Shohei is it's one thing to hit and then it's one thing to pitch, but then this dude also can steal 40 to 50
50,
bags.
50, yeah,
50, you know what I mean? He's not slow. I mean, that is a weapon on the base paths. Like, people don't understand getting that runner in scoring position, especially with the amount that he walks too. I mean, he is just I mean, he's vital to that obviously to that Dodgers offense, but then even his pitching, like, I mean, he's usually around a 3 ERA. Isn't that about right?
yeah. Always in the conversation for Cy Young if he's pitching
Mhm.
the entire season. But Shohei Ohtani is worth every single penny and maybe more of that $700 million
Mhm.
contract he signed. I just kind of wish he would receive all 70 million and all 70 million of
At
that would go towards
100%.
the luxury tax. That's all I can say about the Dodgers, but right now they're the pinnacle of baseball. They are the definition of success and they are the first back-to-back defending champion in 25 seasons. So congratulations to the Dodgers on a fantastic season, fantastic
I
run
know
that
that
will
pains you to
continue
say
on.
that. I know
It
it's
does.
killing you to say
It
congrats to
does
the
because
Dodgers.
I've made the argument that, the Astros were the pinnacle of success for all these times. 7
Yeah.
straight ALCSs, went to the playoffs 8 years in a row, 2 World Series, 4 pennants in that span. The Dodgers have won 3. They've been to 5. They've won the division, I think, every single one of those seasons except for 2021. They had the struggles in the postseason, throughout the last couple years before they started spending all this money. But until there is a rule that says you can't go over this or you have to pay this, they're going to keep doing what they're going to do. They can do it. And by no reason should they stop.
100%. Well, the baseball's now done, so we'll have off-season stuff coming up for you guys, but now we're going to focus on the sport that's flying high right now, football, essentially college football on Saturday. We had a great Saturday of college football. 3 top 10 upsets, which every time you have that in a week, I mean, that's phenomenal. And we also had teams like Alabama and Georgia on bye weeks this week. So not all of those top 10 teams were playing. So very exciting weekend of football. So going to kick us off, SMU versus Miami. What a phenomenal game. I mean, I don't know really what there is left to say about Miami and Carson Beck, but this game was I mean, it was close, low scoring throughout. It just Miami's giving up penalties. That roughing the passer on fourth down in the fourth quarter absolutely, absolutely killed them because it gave SMU the opportunity to get into field goal range and kick that game tying field goal. And then when you get into overtime and you've got a guy like Carson Beck who's experienced and has all the pedigree of being an SEC starter and at the beginning of the season, a Heisman hopeful and somebody who's going to be drafted to the NFL, for him to make that throw in the red zone against SMU, a game that they had to win to be in playoff contention, like they're almost out of the playoff picture now at 6-2 in a weak ACC. Like they don't have any major wins. I mean, outside of the Notre Dame one, and I guess you could say Florida, but man, that pick was absolutely atrocious. And then good on SMU driving the ball down, scoring and winning the game. Rhett Lashley, that could be a guy that's moving on from SMU to maybe take some bigger jobs elsewhere. But shocking result from the Canes. What do you think about that, Kyle?
Yeah, no, I mean, I said it in last week's podcast about Carson Beck, how he's kind of been pedestrian. And I think I was looking at it earlier, 4 out of his last 5 games, I believe Florida State was the only one that
Yeah.
he played exceptionally well. He's been mediocre at best, disappearing. He was a Heisman hopeful at the beginning of the season. In this game, 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, that one at the end. It was a great game. It was a great game. Very close
Yep.
throughout the entirety of it. Just the 6 points in the I believe the touchdown at the end in overtime. But man,
Hmm.
what about Jordan Hudson? What a game he had.
Yeah. Ridiculous, man. I mean,
Yeah, 11 catches for 100, almost 140 yards. What a
ridiculous.
game he had. Yeah.
And what's his face? Jennings has been phenomenal for
Yeah,
SMU
I
those
mean, he
last two
had
seasons.
I think it
And
was almost like 380 yards in that game.
yep. He had 365 through the air, and then
Mm.
obviously he's going to add some on the ground. He's been,
I
I
don't think in
mean,
this game. I think he had
he had
negative
negative
yards in this
rushing yards
game.
because of the
Yeah,
sacks. Yeah,
the
he made a,
sacks.
he made a couple decent runs, but I just watching that football game. I mean, Carson Beck went through the same similar slump last year through the middle of the year where he's throwing a lot of picks with Georgia and getting them into some positions where they should have lost, and that team just pulled them through. So I don't even think you can consider Carson Beck a top quarterback going into next year's draft class. Like this dude is unfortunately not going to be a guy that's very highly rated, and it sucks because he does his peak. He is a very good quarterback, but he also has these ebbs and flows and these valleys where he's just really poor. But this probably knocks Miami out of playoff contention unless they get some luck, like Virginia has to lose, where they can kind of get it back into that ACC. Louisville, I believe, has to lose too, and Georgia Tech would too, for them to
Well, they
get a
do.
shot.
Louisville does have the tiebreaker over them,
Yep.
so
So Louisville would
keep
have to
that in
lose three
mind. Keep
times.
that in mind.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be definitely a tough ask for Miami to get back into this playoff hunt. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
hate to
even
see it,
even
but
SMU, we could be looking at Louisville, SMU in that ACC championship game.
hmm
One loss for SMU, none for Louisville.
yeah,
But
it's crazy, man. I honestly don't think that we're going to get more than one ACC team in here. I know people have tried to act like Virginia is a good football team. I'm still not a believer on Virginia just from what I've seen. I mean, that North Carolina game, I don't care who you are. This is a god awful North Carolina team, and they're still pushing Virginia like they're, deserve to be in the playoff hunt. And that's just, your typical ACC fan base and bias. But I believe from what we've seen from the Big 12 and the SEC that you're gonna leave too many good teams out if you let a second ACC team in this year. I mean, we'll just have to see the college football playoff rankings come out either this week or next week. So we'll see how the committee views everybody. But I mean, definitely that this hurts the ACC's chances a lot of getting two teams in that playoff. But moving ahead to the other earlier game, Texas beats Vanderbilt at home. Texas was up 34-10 at a point, kind of takes their foot off the gas in the fourth quarters, had a couple injuries in the secondary, put some twos and threes in, got a little complacent. And Vandy came back and off a play with the busted coverage, a couple runs, you know, honestly, from a team that you would want to be a contender in Texas, you don't like to see, them giving up 21 points in the fourth quarter. But this is about as good as we've seen Texas play. I said it in the podcast last week that Texas was going to have to play a complete football game to beat Vanderbilt because there's been times where the offense has played solid and the defense hadn't played great, like we saw with Mississippi State. We've seen the defense carry Texas's offense throughout the entire season in games like Kentucky, Ohio State. I mean, even keeping them in it they pretty much won them the game against Oklahoma. And this is the first time I can truly say that we've seen offense and defense played well together. And this is a good Vanderbilt team, a one-loss Vanderbilt team, number 9 in the country. That gives Texas 2 top 10 wins, which if you're looking at their resume now, you can say those away games in Lexington, Kentucky, and Starkville look pretty bad, but then you also look at their peaks. They lost to Ohio State by 7 points. No team's even come close to Ohio State this year. And then on top of that, you've got a win over Oklahoma, who's 11th in the country right now. And then you have a win over Vandy, who was 9th in the country. So, I mean, at the time, Oklahoma was 6, Vandy was 9. 2 really good wins. Arch Manning played out of his mind. First time I think I've really seen that hype kind of pay off. Like, he looked this way against some of the weaker opponents that they played, but this is the first time he did it against a team that was talented, and he made all the right throws, high completion percentage, didn't force the ball. Texas is going to have to run the ball a little bit better, but overall, a phenomenal game. But Kyle, what do you think of this result?
Yeah, I've been very critical on Texas all season long. I made a outlandish comment that it's starting to seem like last week, calling them the worst 6-2 team in college football. And I've completely changed my mind now after seeing what I saw from Arch. Contrevion looked really good. Even Mosley getting a lot of the
Yep.
targets in this game.
Yep.
He looked really
And
good.
Moser looks
And this
real
game,
good.
I know the score shows it as, 34-21, but for the majority of this game, Vandy didn't score in 2 quarters. They
Yep.
put together a couple good drives in that second. Pavia did not play that bad. As a lot of people are saying, oh, Pavia's like overrated, mediocre. I know those stats are padded, but anytime you throw for almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, playing turnover-free football on his standpoints, I was impressed, but I was more impressed with Texas. The defense did just enough. Just that little collapse right there at the end of the game made it a little more interesting. But, we talked about that gauntlet that they got coming up. I believe we still got Georgia, right? We have
Yep.
Georgia and then A&M. You're going to have some
Yep.
tough
Those 2
games,
games are going to be
but
absolutely massive.
win both of those and, you're in
They're in the
really good
playoff.
position. You could win the conference,
Yep. I mean, this coming
which
from
is
a
crazy
team
because
that
they were out.
I mean,
They're back to
think about this
contenders. They
team,
fell out of the top 25.
and they could easily find their way back in. And I mean, this would be you'd have to give a lot of credit to Steve Sarkisian for keeping this team level. And I mean, if they come back and let's say they run the table and win the next 3 games and end up getting into either the SEC championship or for sure in the playoff, because with 4 top 10 wins, they'll for sure get in. But if they're able to run the table, I mean, Steve Sarkisian, just got to give him a massive hand clap because that is a ton of adversity to
Yeah,
get
no.
into the playoff. I mean, it would be absolutely insane if they did that, but we're just going to have to see. I mean, I'm looking forward. These last 3 weeks are going to be crazy, crazy. There's so many good games. Even a game like the Iron Bowl that Auburn has struggled just firing their coach today, Hugh Freeze, but we don't know what could happen there. The Iron Bowl is always interesting. Like those last couple weeks of the season are going to get really interesting. But we'll get right into the next game. I know this one's pretty close to you and your heart. Houston getting upset by West Virginia at home, a 2-6 team. What are your quick thoughts on that? We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, West Virginia came in with a very like run heavy scheme, and Willie Fritz was not able to stop it. His defense, Connor Weigman, I was not very impressed with at all. He threw the 2 picks, quarterback rating of 44. It was rough. I don't know how they put up that many points. He did have the 4 touchdowns. Amari Thomas, he has played really well so far this season, but that's just a game you really hurts to lose, because now last week we were talking about how U of H could sneak into that conference championship with like BYU or Texas Tech after beating Arizona State. This one is a tough one. West Virginia just busted their schedule, I think. And even if they win out in this conference, it's still going to be tough to definitely get in the playoffs, because they were ranked 22. This loss is going to drop them out of that top 25 altogether. So it sucks, because they really had something special going on this season. Still only 2 losses. If you can finish at 10-2, nine and
That's a great
three
season,
for Houston. Yeah, a program that is on the rise, has been down at the bottom as of recent.
especially in the Big
I would
12.
consider this a great season. Yeah, and now they're going to be able to. You're able to get more recruits. They're going to have a bigger NIL
Hmm.
bag. Players are going to want to come play for Willie Fritz. Connor Weigman came. I believe, don't they have like one of the top quarterback recruits
Yeah, they do.
in this
I believe this next class.
high
Yeah,
school class? Yeah. So hopefully we'll see him get out there and start next season. I could see Connor Weigman maybe transferring again. I could see
maybe.
that as a possibility.
I think he's played well enough this season where he
Well,
gets
that's
he
what I'm
gets that
saying.
opportunity to run it back.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think he has overall played well enough to maybe get an offer from one of these other schools that has a quarterback leaving, maybe doesn't have a backup plan, a top recruit coming in or something
And
like
yeah, you
that.
could say like Miami or one of those type schools. You could
Yeah,
for sure see that
exactly,
happening.
exactly what happened with Carson Beck. Yeah, I could see that
Hmm.
happening. But him leaving was good for A&M, for everybody. It was good for Connor. It was good for Marcel. It was good for Houston, and it was good for A&M. So
Benefited
just
everybody,
a rough
honestly.
rough game. Rough game. We're 8-1. If they're 8-1, beat West Virginia, you probably don't move up too far in the rankings. Maybe to 20 after a couple losses with some of the teams. But this one hurt me. It really hurt me.
Yeah.
We're getting those primetime games again. This one was on FS1. And I haven't gotten to watch many U of H games on primetime these last couple
No.
seasons.
Yep. And the other thing I was gonna say is Houston fans, we got to get out in attendance, man. An empty
No, it's
stadium
bad.
for a top 25 team, like what are we doing? Like we got to get
It's
behind.
not even the
Like
full stadium. It's not the full.
yeah,
It's the student section that like
yeah,
really is like it's crazy to me.
yeah.
It's so
Student like
crazy.
U
The
of H
only
students,
game,
what are y'all doing?
yeah.
The only
There's
game was the
two
Tech game.
Tech game in Colorado. People
Yeah,
people filled out to go see Dion. And other than like we're having a great season, man. It's hard for me with my job to go out there and get to a couple of these games, but I have been to TDCU once this season, and I definitely got to get back out there because they're putting a product on the field, and the rest of
100%.
the rest of the students should be out there as well. I don't care if it's cold. I don't care if it's raining. If Willie
Look
Fritz
at
is
all
going
the
to give
other
us,
programs in the country. I mean, the
yeah,
Ohio States are playing in
freezing weather,
freezing
freezing.
temperatures, rain, wind. Like Notre Dame fans are out there in the rain every single weekend. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You gotta show up for your team. But I mean, we even see the Texas fans in the rain this weekend against Vanderbilt. Like
Hmm.
they don't go anywhere. So there's no excuse. This is a top 25 team in a Power Four conference. You gotta show up. But I'm gonna move us right ahead. Georgia versus Florida, always a unique rivalry. Obviously, Florida without their head coach Billy Napier getting fired a couple weeks ago. Came in with no expectations, nothing to lose, a whole lot to prove. And honestly, again, we'll talk about it again. This Florida team has gotten so close in so many football games, they just cannot finish. And that's the difference between them being, 6-2, 5-3, 7-1. They just can't finish with these ball games. Like the only game that they were able to finish was against Texas because the rest of the team couldn't finish against LSU, couldn't finish against Miami, couldn't finish against Texas A&M, and then couldn't finish again against Georgia. I mean, it is I don't even know what's left to say about this Florida team. I mean, they put up a really good fight and had a lot of chances to win this game. And you know what? Georgia just made the most of their opportunities there at the end, and winning it at the end again. Their defense comes up big. Obviously, controversial. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? At the end of the game on that last drive for Florida, but a really great game. Gunnar Stockton plays solid. I'm still, even though Georgia is the number 5 team in the country, they beat Ole Miss. I'm still hesitant to really be all in on this Georgia team. I mean, I don't. I like them a lot, and they're super resilient. And the culture there might be the best culture in college football because they're able to win these close games and win in these scenarios where it's they're not expected to when they're down by so much, and like the comeback against Ole Miss and their comeback against Tennessee. But oh, I don't know. I I mean, I'm just not convinced that this is an elite football team yet. It's a great football team, but I don't know if you can necessarily call them elite yet. Like I still, in their loss to Alabama, they definitely showed some weaknesses. But we're gonna see coming into that week against Texas. Whew, that's gonna be a
Yeah,
really
it's
good
gonna
game.
they I kind of disagree with you on Georgia. They are battle tested, and
Yeah,
that's
no
all you can
question.
say.
That's not
They're
what I'm saying. I'm saying they're not Indiana or Ohio State level,
Oh, well,
or
I
even
don't see any
Alabama.
reason, even with that loss to Bama and how that game looked, I still don't see a reason why they can't go out there and give a huge chance at winning a game versus Indiana, Texas A&M, Ohio State, any of those top teams. Really, I think it's still a possibility. You know, if with that loss to Bama, if they win that game, you're looking at probably the number 2 team in the nation right now.
Yeah,
And I know I don't really want to get into those hypotheticals, but gotta dig into Florida real quick. Like the opposite of what you said about culture can be said about that
yeah,
Florida football team. It's been bad. Like there's been no structure, there's been no anything. Going back to that I think it was week 2 versus
yeah,
Florida State or week 1 where the shoe got thrown and that's how they lost and
yeah.
that just everything has gone off the rails. DJ Lagway has looked like a complete shell of what we expected to see. And it's
What we
so
saw last
disappointing.
season, it's really disappointing because I mean, he shows flashes of what he can be, and there's just
But
no
even in this
support
game, I
there
don't
around
care.
him.
I
And
don't care
yeah,
about the defense, man. 166 yards and 1 touchdown in college football.
yeah,
I don't care what defense you're playing. You see other quarterbacks, they'll lose to Georgia, but they'll still put up 300 yards and a couple
yeah.
touchdowns.
Well,
So it's disappointing. Like if he plays better, they are in so many more of these games. They probably win so many more of these games.
hundred
Just like
percent.
you said, you could be looking at a 6-2 team.
Well, that brings me to my next question that I have to ask you, man. Is there a world where you can see Texas going in and upsetting this Georgia team? With Georgia, I mean, obviously, I know it's a home game for Georgia, but with how Georgia's played throughout this year, every single game has been close for the most part, outside of like the game against Kentucky. They they have played really close against a lot of teams. Is there a world where you see Texas just coming out like kind of how they did with Vanderbilt and punching them in the mouth, and it's just too much for Georgia to come back, or do you think this Georgia team can just come back from any score?
I think this Georgia team can come back from any score, but like I still think Texas probably takes it this coming week. They're hot right now. They're coming off a huge win versus Vandy. I know the
They got a
difference
bye
between
week
Georgia
in
and
between, yeah,
Vandy. Yeah. I I've doubted Texas all season long, and I think that stops now until they play my Aggies. Like that's gonna stop right now.
yeah,
And they're hot. I'm gonna take the hot hand. Archie looked really good. That defense I think will give Gunner a little bit of issues. So yes, I do think Texas can go in there and kind of wreck shit a little bit.
yeah. It would be crazy, like it would be an insane result if Texas
Well,
goes
it is
in
gonna. I think it's gonna rely a lot on the running game, Wisner and
a
Baxter. I
hundred
feel like the
percent.
games the games where we've been like, wow, like Texas really look good this week. It's when the running
It's
game's
when they,
going.
yep,
It takes a
100%
little bit of the pressure off of
off
Arch.
arcs. Hmm.
His receivers are gonna go make plays. Wingo, Livingstone, like they're gonna go make plays. But when the offense opens up give Sark a little bit of room to, run things a little bit different and
Misdirection, the
arch his
play
big.
action, the swing passes,
Yeah.
everything. It opens everything up. You're so right. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that game. But we're going to touch on now another Georgia team, Georgia Tech, who is 8-0. And, we were sitting here last week calling them legit. We'd had questions earlier in the season, and then they go and drop a game to a 4-4 NC State team. Obviously, Haynes King still had over 500 yards, which, I mean, this guy has to enter the Heisman Trophy conversation with what he's putting up for Georgia Tech, but just a shocking loss to give up 48 points to NC State and to lose by 12. That's just, if you're a top 8 team in the country, you're not doing that. Obviously, Georgia Tech is, you know,
Well, they
gone
couldn't.
against all odds and beaten everybody on their schedule, but I think kind of the fairy tale ends here.
Yeah, I don't think the fairy tale ends here. They always play Georgia well, which
That
that's
is
who they
true.
play rivalry week in the last week of the regular season. A win there can really shake things up and get them back into the ranked in the top 12 without necessarily winning the ACC, which can still happen, but you got to stop the run, man. Almost 250 yards. Can't have that. 4 touchdowns given up on the ground. Absolutely cannot have that.
Hmm.
But CJ Bailey still had a really good game.
Phenomenal. That
Only
kid is really talented.
eight passes he couldn't complete, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 100 QB rating, and that was a good game. NC State schedule buster right there. But Georgia
Yeah,
Tech, I
this
don't
is
think
a
the
good
fairy tale's
football
over.
team. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
But NC State
but
most definitely is a good football team.
yeah, but the fairy tale is not over. Let's not write them off yet. We still got a lot of season. These last 3 weeks in college football, a team can jump from somewhere in the 20s all
The
the way up to
playoff
being
spots
ranked in the
now, yeah.
top 12. Yeah. So let's not write him off yet. Haynes King, like you said, is playing his way into the Heisman conversation. They're gonna be in all of these last 3 games, and they still got their chance. They're 5-1. The ACC, you still could be playing for that conference championship with Miami's loss. So
Yep.
let's see. We'll see.
Well, moving ahead in Neyland Stadium, night game. Oklahoma gets a massive win on the road for Brent Venable's team. I just Tennessee's offense is so
Still not
good,
convinced.
but
Oh
they
yeah.
turn the ball over in such inopportune moments and give up like we saw the same thing in the Bama game. Like that's what ultimately lost them the game. Tennessee was rolling from the jump, and then they give up a fumble return touchdown, and then it just shifts momentum for the rest of the game. And I feel for Josh Heupel because they had opportunities to win. I mean, Joey Aguilar throws for almost 400 yards, but it's the turnovers that are killing this Tennessee team. And I'm going to flip it over to Brent Venables in Oklahoma. That is a massive win for that OU team. Still, obviously, not convincing. John Mateer played okay. He still has not gone over 300 yards against a top 25 opponent yet in his career. So that's something to watch out for. But Oklahoma's getting that running game going. And that defense is, like we said earlier, we've talked about this OU defense being one of the best in the country. Again, performing well and, getting the win for the ball. I mean, for the Sooners.
Yeah, no, you win the turnover battle, you win a lot of football games. But Mateer passing since that injury,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think Oklahoma's really going to be a threat to win the national championship. They could still make the postseason, in one of those top 12 spots with a couple big wins coming up. But that Red River game really, really messed them up.
I
Really
know.
messed up the season. But like you said, on the opposite side, Mateer didn't look great passing, but on
He did
the running
random.
game for
Yep.
Oklahoma, yeah,
He
Mateer
ran
had
the
80
ball
yards
well.
himself, and then
Yep.
Xavier ran the ball well.
Robinson. Yep. Robinson ran the ball well
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, Tennessee, I think we can kind of shut the book on them a little bit. We talked
Their
about the
playoffs,
SEC teams. Yeah,
they're done.
it's their playoff chances are kind of done. We talked about why it's going to be a struggle for 5 SEC teams to make the playoffs.
And this is
Now
the
we're kind of
exact
looking at
reason
maybe
why.
4.
Yep.
Yeah, they're beating up on each other. They're beating up on each other. Dylan said it really well in the last episode that the schedule is the thing preventing it.
Yep.
But it sucks to see for Joey Aguilar because I had such high hopes for him going into the season. Thought Tennessee could be one of the be competing for that SEC championship, but that's not looking like it's going to happen at this point.
Unfortunately, it's not. I'm going to move ahead to, we could talk about this quickly, but Utah absolutely dominates Cincinnati. And this is obviously bad for, I mean, this sets up really a two-horse race to get into the playoff for Texas Tech and BYU, with Cincinnati now losing in this fashion. I mean, what an absolute domination. 45-14. What are your thoughts on that game?
I was completely shocked. I didn't
Me
think
too.
Utah. I didn't. I haven't seen much from Dampier this season. That is given every game that I've watched him play actually has been the two losses where they've looked absolutely
Hmm.
terrible. But they beat them up on every single side of the ball, and they only give up 14 points. And we were talking about Cincinnati as one of those teams that could possibly make the postseason by winning the Big
Especially with
12.
how Sorsby's been
And
playing. And whew,
yeah, no, that's crazy. Their season, it's wrapped, but
both teams are.
Dampier, they could be fighting now. They could. They're number 17. A couple more win out,
Yeah, you never
and the
know.
committee could
It's
be possibly putting them in. Could be like
like
a
we said.
Boise State situation that we saw last season.
Well, I will say, I think
Hmm.
for the only conference that two losses will probably be excusable is the SEC. I think the committee is probably going to give favors to the two-loss SEC teams over the two-loss Big 12 and ACC
Yeah,
teams.
no, for sure, for sure.
So that, like Miami, Cincinnati, Utah, I think they're going to have struggles to try to jump those two-loss SEC teams. Now we could see a bunch of SEC teams lose games. Like we could see Texas go to three losses here. Oklahoma's got a tough schedule on the way out. We could see them go to three losses. Like I'm not saying there's not room for it. I'm just saying that there is definitely a chance, especially with who these teams got to have to play. But the last game I'm going to touch on real quickly, a defensive struggle. USC escapes Nebraska with a 21-17 win. Dylan Raiola unfortunately has a season-ending injury. Sucks to see that, but I mean, this was a game pretty much dominated on the ground. Nebraska and USC both collectively ran the football really well. Jaden Mayaba's worst game of the season. Um, But Nebraska's season's pretty much done with their quarterback going down, and USC's still in the hunt. That's a good win for the Trojans, and we'll see what happens going here forward. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the AP Top 25. What? Okay, so I have it right here. It's Ohio State and Indiana and Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, all holding their top five spots. Nothing changing there, obviously. Followed by Oregon, Ole Miss, BYU, Texas Tech, and Notre Dame. I'm going to touch on Oregon a little bit. Oregon has not played and beaten anybody in the top 25. The only top 10 win that they have is over a 3-5 Penn State team, who obviously should not have been there. So I would honestly like to see Ole Miss jump Oregon. BYU, Texas Tech, that's fine ahead of Notre Dame. I think, obviously the team that loses is going to fall out of this top 10, fall back a little bit, whether it be Texas Tech or BYU. Notre Dame sitting there at 10. Obviously, I don't think they're the best two-loss team in the country, but if you look, they almost beat Texas A&M and they almost beat Miami. So both of their losses came down right to the end, so I have no issue with them being there at 10. Oklahoma there at 11. A little surprised that Texas isn't ahead of them, given that Texas did beat Oklahoma in a neutral site game. And I would say Texas's losses, at least the Ohio State one, obviously the Florida one is not good. Texas's valleys have been a lot worse than Oklahoma's, but I definitely think Texas for sure could be ahead of Oklahoma. And Virginia at 12 is absolutely despicable on the AP polls rankings. I have no idea why that team's there. This is a team that almost lost to North Carolina, if by an inch. Virginia would not even be ranked if North Carolina. Have you seen that 2-point conversion play, Kyle, where the North Carolina player is literally this far away from the pylon where they could have upset Virginia? Like, this is a Bill Belichick North Carolina team we're talking about. So I'm not a big
Mhm.
believer in Virginia. Same thing with Louisville. Louisville at 14's a little high to me. I don't think Georgia Tech should have fallen behind Louisville. That's my personal opinion. We can say whatever. Utah at 17 might be a little high considering how they've played throughout the season, but you know what? I'll give it there. Miami at 18 probably deserved where they should be. Missouri hanging in there at 19, about right. Then we have USC at 20, Michigan at 21. Still am not sold on Michigan. Still not sold on Bryce Underwood. Memphis there at 22. Then we have Tennessee at 23, Washington at 24, and Cincinnati, after getting beat down, is still in the top 25. I don't know why a team like Iowa has not gotten in the rankings, and a team like North Texas. Like, these are two teams that have performed really well throughout the season. I'm not understanding why Iowa is not in this top 25, especially with the teams that, have lost in front of them. But we'll obviously see. What are your thoughts on the AP poll?
My biggest surprise is honestly kinda Washington. I don't know,
Yeah.
they had some big wins early on in the season, but they did lose to Ohio State. They barely held on versus Maryland, lost to Michigan, a team that we're not very sold on. So I don't know what they should, like you said, with North Texas, that quarterback with that great story,
Maker,
I
yeah.
cannot remember his
Great
name.
story.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
could
Drew
never pronounce.
Maker.
Yeah. So I mean, they should probably deserve a spot over Washington. And then again with Cincinnati, 8 spots after dropping by like 30, 40 points.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely should see another couple teams in there. But in the end, it won't really matter. I don't think really any of those teams that we discussed are going to be fighting for the top 12.
yeah.
But yeah,
The list is definitely
it just
shortening. I
sucks. Yeah.
think now looking at the rankings, I would say Missouri, I'd
I'd
say
say Georgia,
USC.
Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. I would say maybe. I think USC could potentially is like the cutoff line. Maybe USC, Michigan, because Michigan still has that game against Ohio State, where if they beat Ohio State,
Uh-huh.
that
Which
pushes
we've
them up
seen in that
there.
game, anything can happen. Yeah.
Exactly. So I could see Michigan maybe getting in, USC, Missouri, Miami if something crazy happens in the ACC, and then everybody else has a real chance. I think for the group of five team, I think we're looking pretty much right now. Memphis is leading the charge. We could see North Texas if they win the American Athletic. Definitely, it's going to be a team from the American Athletic this year, whether that be North Texas or USF or Memphis. It's going to be one of those three teams that get in the playoff. So it'll be fun to see. But oh, great weekend of college football. Again, it's always fun to have some upsets, and these next 3 to 4 weeks are going to be an absolute sprint to the finish. It is going to be crazy to see what happens, but most teams have about 3 games left, so we're getting to the nitty gritty part of the season, and we're about to see what happens. But moving ahead, NFL Sunday. Today was another just college football, ton of upsets on Saturday. NFL Sunday brought the same type of
And we had a
action.
couple games. We had a couple
Yeah.
games that are in contention for like games of the year. Like that
Hmm.
Bengals Bears game, the Chiefs Bills,
Phenomenal.
really
Yep.
good games. We had so many upsets. I was right about the Colts. I told you, first test.
100%. First test. And
First test, they dropped to the Steelers.
you know what I will say on that note, though, that they did come close at the end. The Steelers did play really well, though, through 3 quarters. I think Daniel Jones
Mhm.
still had a good game. And, it's tough. It's always going
Well,
to be
three
tough to play in
picks. He
Pittsburgh.
did throw
Three
three
picks, yeah.
picks.
But I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Aaron
I still
Rodgers.
like it. I
Aaron
mean,
Rodgers almost played mistake-free football.
that's the difference in this game. I still think Daniel Jones played well enough where they could have come back and won. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor only 45 yards on the ground. That's not been what they've been doing. And I think honestly, dude, this Colts team's still good, but it's always going to be tough to go play in Pittsburgh with that fan base. That's always going to be one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. And
Mhm.
massive upset. I mean, the Steelers team could probably get a playoff spot here. The way we're looking at things. I mean, they're first in their
Well, no,
division. No,
I think they definitely will. Yes, they are. Two
yeah,
teams are surging, though. We have the Ravens with Lamar Jackson back. Looked
yep,
really good this week on Thursday night. And then the Bengals, too. I mean, even with that loss today, ever since Joe Flacco has been there under center, that offense has looked rejuvenated. Chase Brown's
yep.
getting more involved. Jamar finally has someone to just air the
T.
ball out
Higgins.
to. T. Higgins we saw today. Yoshava had a couple big plays. So, that division is going to be a race. Especially
Yeah.
I could see a
Do you think
world
the
where the
Steelers can
Ravens maybe
hold this
don't
lead, or do you
lose
think
another
they
game.
you think the Steelers hold this lead, or do you think that they start kind of faltering as the season goes on, kind of in Pittsburgh fashion?
Well, we could say it's Pittsburgh fashion, but there's somebody else at the helm now, and it's Aaron Rodgers. He's proven.
True.
Terrible situation last year with the Jets. Terrible situation. But even when he was in Green Bay, excusing the one season that he truly played with the Jets, he was an MVP. He was an MVP
Yep.
in Green Bay those last couple of years, and I don't see them faltering. The only way I do see it happening, though, I do believe they have 2 games left with the Ravens.
Yep.
And, if you drop those games, I could see a world where Baltimore really doesn't lose many more football games this season. I
I
need to
can
check
too.
out their schedule real quick, but
It's one of the
they
easier
look
ones
so
left in the
good.
NFL.
Always with
Yep.
Lamar. With Lamar, they're gonna look good. The defense is
Yep.
finally starting to get a little healthy. They're playing much better. And looking at it, they have one with the Vikings, which will be a tough game. The Browns and the Jets, which should be easy wins. They got the Bengals twice and the Steelers once. So
It's all in their
a lot
hands.
of winnable games for the Ravens.
Uh, let's talk your Texans, man. I This game was obviously altered by the fact that CJ Stroud went down with a concussion. Texans played really well, especially when CJ was there, in my opinion. And I thought they probably should have, with the way they played, I thought they should have come away with a win, especially. I mean, I didn't think Bo
Yeah,
was great today, and I thought that Texans defense played phenomenal. So it's
yeah, no. Bo Nix was 0 for 8 at one point.
yeah,
Couldn't get anything going. J.K. Dobbins, when given the ball, looked really good, but that Texans defense is just incredible. Out 2 things that have really killed them so far this season is late in the games, whenever they start playing a little more prevent, just letting the quarterback scramble and get into really good positions. We saw it with Baker Mayfield in week 2, saw it this week with Bo Nix. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse here because, the Broncos were playing without Surtain and Marvin Mims, pretty big guys on their team, but I definitely do think they do win if CJ Stroud gets to finish it out. He looked really good in those first couple of drives, hitting guys on the run, on the sideline, found Nico a couple of times. And it's just getting into the end zone has been a huge struggle for the Texans. Kaimi Fairbairn they scored 15, so that's 5 field goals today. He did miss one, the very first one. I believe it was a 50-yard kick, which is a hard kick, but if he makes that kick, this game
yeah.
turns out a lot differently. But prayers to CJ Stroud. I'm praying for a speedy recovery. But yeah, no, the Texans have had a couple of these receivers really step up over these last couple of weeks. Xavier Hutchinson has been incredible. But it's just been the running game, not being able to get into the end zone. There's been so many situations this year where we've been stuck at the 1-yard line and can't get a touchdown. First and goal from the 1, getting pushed back, getting stopped. Penalties kill. A couple penalties at the 1 on like 3rd down that pushed it to there was one we were gonna go for actually. It was 4th and 1. CJ was about to sneak it, and then we had a false start and it got pushed back, had to settle for a field goal. I really thought, like, as I was watching this game, that the Texans were gonna be able to maybe claw back into this thing. We saw a couple losses. They're only 1 game out from the wild card, I believe. Or 2 games out now after this loss today. They could
It's
have maybe
doable.
gained ground on the Colts. It is doable. You can't lose many more games. 2 more games max. And still with that gauntlet, it's going to be hard. I wrote them off a couple weeks ago after the Seattle loss, but this defense is too good. They can theoretically win every single game left on their schedule just because of the defense. Offense just has to be average. And today they weren't. Failed to get into the end zone. That was the difference. They outplayed Denver in every aspect, on defense. I believe on offense, they outplayed them too, just by watching the game. But Denver is the better football team. They found a way to win, and they're looking really good, moving to 6-2
100%,
or
man.
7-2, 7-2.
Denver's finding ways to win close ball games, like we always talk about. We talked about it with Georgia. We talked about it with the Eagles. If you can win these close ball games and just rack up wins on the schedule, at some point you got to be considered as an elite team. And Denver's starting to enter that conversation. I'm not ready to say Bo Nix is elite yet, but Denver definitely is elite. But moving ahead to the biggest upset of the day, the Panthers beat the Packers at Lambeau Field. I mean, that was an absolutely crazy game. Panthers winning with another walk-off field goal. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. What are your
How
thoughts on
many of
that one?
those have we seen this year just from all around the league? But injuries really riddled the Packers, I would say. You know, Tucker Kraft, I believe he's out
Yeah.
for the season with that ACL. Matthew Golden went out. He's going to have some further testing done tomorrow on his elbow. Talked to somebody close to him, and it didn't seem good. He should be back, but sucks to see, especially in a close game. You know, he could have possibly made a difference. But how about the Panthers, man? 5-4 in a kind of weak division now. You know, we could see the Bucks start fluctuating a little bit with
With
all
all
those
those injuries.
injuries. Yeah, I mean, could we see the Panthers in the playoffs this season?
I don't think so. When Bryce Young is throwing for 102 yards and a pick, and your best offensive weapon has been Rico Dowdle, don't think that you're a playoff team, but they are 5-4, and they've beaten some good teams. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, they have. The Packers is starting to get a little disappointing. 5-2-1, really 5-3 if you count the tie in the NFL standings. It's gonna be tough for them to win that division with the Lions. Even though the Lions dropped today too.
yep,
You know, we can
another
get into that
upset.
game real quick. Versus
Vikings
the
beat the
Vikings.
Lions. JJ had a good game. I mean, we were talking kind of like that their season was going to be over. Obviously, after
All
they
those quarterback
yeah,
injuries.
Carson Wentz got injured and he had played pretty well for the Vikings. And then, you're looking at it here. JJ McCarthy, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 143. Not a phenomenal game, but that defense is really good up there in
That
Minnesota.
D
Aaron
line, the
Jones
D line.
had a great game.
Uh,
So,
but that D line of Minnesota holding the best running back tandem to 65 yards. Obviously, a key fumble from
yep,
David Montgomery. Kind of sealed the game a little bit, even though it was a little bit in the middle. But three lost by 3 points, and can't have those fumbles, especially from a vet like Montgomery. Got
yep.
to be able to hold on to the football. Jared Goff still played really well, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Just a really well executed game by by the Vikings, man.
I
And
mean, heck, even that Lions D line played great. 5 sacks on. I mean, that
yeah, on
if you're looking at
Jared.
the box score, like you're thinking, oh wow, the Lions should have blown this Vikings team out, but that's
Yeah.
just not. That was not the case for the game today.
Yeah, exactly. It just got they got out rushed, you know.
Hmm.
65 rushing yards for Detroit, 142 in total with counting JJ McCarthy for the Vikings. That was the real difference. Justin Jefferson had a pretty nice game, 47 yards and a touchdown. Love to see that. Love that the stars are finally eating again, like Jamar and Justin after a couple slow weeks.
Yep. But like you said, massive, massive, massive game from the Vikings defense there. That key fumble, and obviously kind of shocking from the Lions, but remains to be seen what happens. Other action in the NFL, we had the Patriots beat the Falcons in a close game. Drake May continues an MVP charge. I wouldn't say he's quite the front runner, but he's definitely in the conversation. Chargers continue rolling, beating the Titans, and then obviously the Bears we talked about. Bears Bengals, crazy game today.
No,
So many yards.
as soon as the Texans game ended, I was able to tune into the end of that Bears game. I had a emergency start with Joe Flacco today in fantasy football.
Oh,
Jalen
you
Hurts
got
was on.
so bailed.
Oh no, I didn't. I lost that. I'm
You
losing that
lost to
match
start
pretty.
Joe Flacco this week, bro.
Can I? I know this isn't on the script, but can I talk about this real quick?
Of course.
So I had a pretty good week, you know. Starting Joe Flacco got 35 points out of him. Jalen Warren got me 16. He's been my backup running back since Amari Hampton got hurt. Bijan had 17. Justin Jefferson had 16. Olave had 8. Tyler Warren had 7. Nico Collins up to 15. Eddie Pinero, my kicker, had 12. And the Rams defense had 10. So you would think I won that game, right? 140 points. Man, the guys I played against this week. Justin Herbert, 25, CMC, 34. The guy forgot to take Ramondre out of his starting lineup, scored 0. Xavier Worthy was 6. Colston Loveland, that play in this game, Colston Loveland is the reason why I lost. And
Yeah.
he still has, I'm down 5 right now with CeeDee Lamb going tomorrow. And even though he's going up against Will Johnson, I think CD is going to get more than 5 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I had to make that emergency start with Flacco. So I tuned in. I got the notification that they got that first touchdown. And I look up and boom, they got the onside kick. They were down 15 with 2 minutes to go. And absolute collapse by the Bears defense. Gave up the onside kick. They go down and score again. Chase Brown had a big run. Then they throw it up to Yosheva, who scores. They're on top, and I'm thinking this game's over. And then Caleb Williams and Colston Loveland. And when I woke up this morning to look at my fantasy matchup and I saw the guy had Colston Loveland in his lineup, I'm like, all right, yep, that's a dub. Him and Ramondre, it's like a total two points. And Colston Loveland, of course, had his best game of his NFL career. I think it was 57 yards. Just broke a tackle, got loose, and
It's
a huge
crazy,
win for the
man.
Bears. They're 5-3. That division is crazy.
Like I
There's
said,
not
the
a bad
NFC
team.
North is the toughest division in football this season.
Yeah, the worst team is 500, 4-4.
Yep.
Like there's a possibility that we could maybe,
See all four
and it's
teams
all
in the
gonna
playoffs.
depend. Yeah, obviously that would mean all 3 wild card spots are occupied by that division. So that would, the Commanders with this rough injury that I just saw from Jaden Daniels, their season is probably over. They're going to be tanking for a high draft pick. The Cowboys could be fighting. It's going to be tough. They got a big game tomorrow, Monday night, but already with the 4 losses and the tie, it's going to be tough right there. And then taking it out west, we got the Rams and the Seahawks. So I don't think we'll see all 4 teams. I do think the loser of the
100%.
Rams Seahawks will make the postseason. But
Especially with how
that's
the
a great
Seahawks played
division.
tonight. I mean, Sam Darnold was perfect in the first half. Literally had
Yeah,
one of the best
14
first
of
half
14.
performances in NFL history tonight. So,
It's like as soon as I turn the TV on, listen to Carrie Underwood, and by the time I get my dinner ready, Torrey Horton already has 2 touchdown catches.
yeah.
So just a great game from them.
But lastly, the
And
last thing we're obviously going to cover tonight on the pod, game of the week. Everybody was talking about it going in. Always a great matchup when you see 2 of the best competed. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. And you know what? I I have to say, this week on the podcast, what I said Josh
you were
Allen
the only
is
one
phenomenal
regular
this season,
season,
but Josh Allen's
regular
going to have a
season.
great game. James Cook is going to have a great game. Both things were true. Patrick Mahomes had his lowest completion percentage in a start in his NFL career. Still was able to put up decent numbers, but I mean, credit the Buffalo Bills defense. Nick Bosa had a phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. That secondary is starting to show up a little bit there, but obviously got to look at the 2 best players on offense. James Cook has had a phenomenal season for this Bills team, and then obviously Josh Allen too. I mean, we're always going to talk about Josh Allen here on the pod. We love Josh Allen. I mean, what can't
I
this
mean,
guy do? I mean, what
yeah,
can he do?
we're looking at a not even possible, not even potential, a most likely back-to-back MVP winner this season.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's looked awesome. This win with how much, we've seen the top spot in the NFL like fluctuate. Josh Allen now has led the Bills after this win to, I believe we can say, the best team in football.
Yeah, especially with how the Colts played this weekend. I think it's
Yeah, the
pretty safe to
Eagles.
say, and the Packers too. I think the NFL, honestly, this is the most parity we've seen in a long time. Like, it's completely different from MLB, where you have the Dodgers just up there in terms of talent. The NFL, I have no idea who can win it this season. I mean, we would say that we would put our
It could
best
be the
bets
last.
on the Chiefs or Eagles, but I mean, the Eagles have
It
looked
could be the
more at
last team
home.
that sneaks in.
Yeah,
The last team that sneaks in. They could do it because all these teams are so flawed. The Bills. I'm proclaiming them as the best team in the league. I'm not saying they're not flawed. The
every
receiving
team has
core is,
flaws.
yeah, and I don't know. I think the Bills, as it stands right now, the Seahawks are up there. They have a couple losses on the season. The Broncos, Bo Nix hasn't looked great. They've beaten a lot of teams without quarterbacks so far this season. Obviously had that win versus Dallas, a big win. But you said this is the last thing we're gonna talk about. I'm surprised. You forgot something and it really surprised me.
One you want me to talk about the hold on.
As a kicker, you're not gonna talk about the longest made kick in
Oh,
NFL
Cam Little,
history?
yeah. I mean, I could talk all day about Cam Little. Everybody in the kicking world, I know viewers don't want to hear about this, but Cam Little is everybody's known since Cam Little was at Arkansas that this dude has a phenomenal leg and was going to do great in the league. And for an NFL fan, a lot of people don't track kickers in college. I do, obviously being a kicker myself, track kickers and everything like that. Cam Little has been the pinnacle of success. Him and Borealis, who is now at the Patriots from Miami last year, him and Cam Little were two of my favorite kickers to watch in college football. I mean, and then with the emergence of Brandon Aubrey, we've got some really talented guys in the NFL. But, I will say, Kyle, so I don't know how much you know about the kicker ball juicing that's been going on this season while we're seeing a lot of
Ooh,
these records being broken. And so in the past, and this is how it was in college football, this is how it was all the time. You couldn't supply your own kicker's ball. Like you had to use a ball that the officials gave you
that the
the day of the
quarterbacks,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, that the
Uh-huh.
quarterbacks used, that everybody used. So that ball is going to be really firm, and it's a lot harder to
Yeah.
kick. Now in the NFL, they're giving the balls 3 days early to the kickers where they can mold them, they can play with them, make them a lot softer, make them a lot more malleable. NFL footballs already fly further than college footballs to begin with. But now with that extra 3 days of breaking the ball in, getting that sweet spot homed in, I mean, you're seeing these records are going to break. I wouldn't be surprised if a 70-yarder kicked in the next couple weeks. You know what I mean?
It
I
could be Aubrey,
I
could be
think
Little.
Aubrey losing that record, they're going to give him a crack and maybe an end of half situation from 70 because I mean it's just crazy. And I will touch on that Jaguars Raiders game. Still not overly impressed with the Jags, but good win. And we'll see what happens. But shout out Cam Little. That is an absolute dog. I know we don't want to get into too much kickers because I know nobody wants to hear about the kickers and punters, but I
Hey,
I mean
kickers matter, man.
they
Kickers win
do. They
games.
do.
Kickers win games. I saw it. Texans have been walked off on field goals so many times in the last couple of years. I know how important a kicker is. So, and watching you play
Yeah.
back in high school and college. So,
100%, dude. Hey, I will say some of the uh some of the stuff we're seeing this year in college football, like Vanderbilt, for instance, I know the game wasn't supposed to be close, and you don't know what happens if Texas doesn't take their foot off the gas, but Brogdon's did miss a field goal, a 40-yard field goal. He had made, I think it was 9 field goals, or he hadn't missed, maybe it was 19. He hadn't missed since last season in September or something ridiculous like that. I think it was 19, that he'd gone 19 straight field goals without a miss. Misses a 40-yarder against Texas and absolutely shanks it. So you wonder if like that's the difference between winning and losing in big games like that. That if he had made that kick, it would have been 34-34. So I'm not saying because they were already down big, and I don't think Texas probably lets them come back into the game, and the situation is a little bit different, but obviously can't miss those kicks. But and then another scenario, if we're talking kickers tonight, Matt Prater breaks one off the right upright against the Chiefs, gives Patrick Mahomes a chance to win. They almost come up. I think it was Tyquan Thornton almost comes up with a big catch that second to last play before the end of the game. Almost comes up with a big catch in the end zone, and you never want to give a guy like Mahomes a chance to win the game at the end. So
mhm.
kickers really do matter. Special teams really matters. There's three sides of the ball in football. You have to win on offense, defense, and you most definitely have to win on special teams because the loss on special teams, like you're seeing it with Texas. Texas has won 2 games on special teams this season with big returns from Niblett against Kentucky and against Mississippi State. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, and also Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens here going forward with some of these kickers. But like I said, balls are juiced in the NFL right now. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a 70-yard field goal hit here kicked in the coming weeks.
And that's crazy because now you're giving these guys, if 60 is like, we're getting to a point where all kickers can hit 60.
Yeah.
All you have to do is cross midfield and you're in field goal range.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, the the amount of talent, like 10 years ago, 50 yards was a long field goal. I mean, that was like incredible. If you're hitting from over 50 in the NFL, you were considered one of the top guys. In college,
Well, that's why it's so awesome watching Aubrey because
yeah,
I've seen a couple of those close games with the Cowboys that have gone to overtime against the Packers versus the Giants. And then just in general, it's so hard not to score points.
yep,
You know, if all with the new touchback rules, most of these kicks are getting back to the 30, especially when they're returned, I'd say, around that distance. All it takes is three first downs really, 30
yep,
yards to get into scoring range. And if you could score on every drive, you're most likely going to win that game.
yep. I think the only thing for coaches right now that is a little bit nerving is the fact that if they miss that far of a field goal, then the other
You
team
give
gets the
the
ball
other
right there.
team, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think we're going to start to trust some of these guys. Like I think obviously Schottenheimer has that trust in Brandon Aubrey. All right, when you get around the 50, like if we're feeling comfortable,
You
we're
got a
going to let
chance,
you rip.
yeah.
And I think obviously I think Cam Little is going to earn some of that trust down there too in Jacksonville, and we're going to see more kickers starting to get pushed their way back, and 70 is going to start being easy, and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, like I mean, me personally, like 70 is just a number that is unheard of for me. Like 60, okay, I could get there. 70, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Like these guys are absolutely freak athletes. So I mean, we're gonna continue to see some great stuff going on. But that's gonna wrap up our recap episode of this weekend. Was a phenomenal weekend of sports. We appreciate you guys listening to us. We're gonna try to respond to more comments, get it in the comments, interact with you guys. We'll probably do a segment this week on the show, kind of detailing some of our favorite comments from this week and going through that. But we love to hear from you guys. Continue to like, share, subscribe. Everything helps. We're trying to really get this up off the ground, but we appreciate you guys, and we're going to keep bringing you the best sports media that we absolutely can.
Yeah, thank y'all very much for watching. We'll see y'all later on in the week.